The massive screen inside the Galactic Council's observation room flickered with images of a blue planet. 3 alien observers stood watching, their tall, slender forms casting long shadows in the dim light. "Another primitive world," said lead observer Ray, his green scales reflecting the screen's glow. "Designation: Earth. Species: human." The images showed cities spanning across continents, vehicles moving through streets, and most interestingly, humans engaged in various forms of combat. A boxing match flashed across the screen, followed by footage of military training exercises. "They fight constantly," noted Assistant Observer Mark, tapping data into his tablet. "Look at these recordings. They create specialized areas just for combat training." The third observer, Data Analyst Bill, moved closer to the screen. His antenna twitched with interest as he processed the information. But noticed something unusual. They fight, yet their cities still grow. They battle, yet they continue to advance their technology. Ray zoomed in on a sports stadium where 2 teams were playing what humans called football. The crowd roared with excitement as players crashed into each other, fighting for control of a ball. "Even their entertainment involves conflict," Ray said, shaking his head. "By galactic standards, they're practically newborns in terms of civilization, yet they've survived despite their violent nature." Bill pulled up more data streams. "Their planet has something we've never seen before. They have thousands of different cultures, languages, and beliefs. They fight among themselves constantly." But what?" Mark asked, looking up from his tablet. "But they're getting stronger from it. Each conflict leads to new innovations. Every war pushes their technology forward. They learn from their defeats faster than any species we've ever studied." Ray turned away from the screen, his expression troubled. "Send a detailed report to the Council. Mark these humans as a potential threat, despite their primitive technology." "A threat?" Mark laughed. "They haven't even achieved faster than light travel yet. Their weapons are basic. Their ships can barely reach their own moon." Bill's antenna stood straight up, a sign of serious concern. "You don't understand. Look at their progress timeline. From first flight to space travel in less than 70 years. From basic computers to global information networks in less than 50. They advance faster through conflict than any peaceful species we've encountered." The screen showed more images: soldiers training, martial artists sparring, children playing war games. Ray watched silently for a moment before speaking. "We need more information. Prepare a stealth observation post. I want to know everything about these humans, their strengths, their weaknesses, and most importantly, why they keep fighting." As the 3 observers left the room, the screen continued displaying scenes from Earth. In one corner, a small data readout blinked steadily. "Warning: unprecedented rate of technological advancement detected. Species shows unusual adaptation to conflict situations. Further study recommended." The blue planet continued spinning in the background, its inhabitants unaware they were being watched by beings who were quickly realizing that humanity might be more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had expected. Tom adjusted his human disguise carefully before stepping out of his cloaked observation pod. After 3 months of studying Earth's broadcasts and data, he was finally going to observe humans up close. His mission: understand why these beings were so different from any other species in the galaxy. The location he'd chosen was perfect: a military base next to a civilian city. Here, he could watch both military and everyday human activities. His cover story was simple: a foreign journalist writing about military training. Walking through the city streets, Tom noticed something strange. A group of humans were gathering around 2 others who were fighting. But instead of stopping them, the crowd was cheering. Moving closer, he saw they were in a roped-off area, something called a boxing ring. "First time watching a fight?" asked an older man standing next to him. Tom nodded, maintaining his cover. "Yes. Why do they do this?" The old man smiled. "For glory, for money, for the challenge. Sometimes just to prove they can. That's humans for you. always testing their limits. Later that day, Tom watched military exercises at the base. Soldiers ran through obstacle courses, carried heavy weights, and practiced with weapons. What fascinated him most was their determination. When they failed, they didn't give up. They tried again and again, learning from each mistake. During his lunch break, he saw something even more interesting. A soldier who had been struggling with the obstacle course was staying late, practicing alone. Others who had finished their training stayed behind to help, offering advice and encouragement. Fascinating, Tom muttered, taking notes on his disguised datapad. They compete fiercely, yet help each other improve. That evening, he witnessed something that changed his understanding completely. A fire broke out in a nearby building. The same soldiers he'd watched fighting and competing all day immediately rushed to help. They worked together perfectly, rescuing civilians and controlling the fire. Back in his pod that night, Tom recorded his report. Day 91 of observation. Humans are full of contradictions. They create weapons that can destroy cities, yet risk their lives to save strangers. They train for war constantly, but many of their greatest achievements come from working together in peace. They compete aggressively in sports and business, but unite instantly against common threats. He paused, considering his next words carefully. Most concerning discovery. Humans don't just adapt to survive. They actively seek out challenges to become stronger. Their phrase, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," isn't just a saying. It's their way of life. Tom looked at his collection of data from the past 3 months. Videos of sports competitions, military exercises, emergency responses, and everyday conflicts. Final note, he added. Previous reports suggesting humans are primitive due to their constant conflicts were wrong. They don't fight because they're primitive. They're advanced because they fight. Against nature, against their limits, and sometimes against each other. But most importantly, they fight to protect and help each other. He sent the encrypted report to the council, knowing they wouldn't like what he'd discovered. Humans weren't just another violent species. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. The Grand Council chamber fell silent as Tom's hologram appeared in the center of the room. 50 representatives from different galactic species watched as he began his presentation, their expressions ranging from bored to concerned. Honorable council members, Tom started, his voice steadied despite his nervousness. My report on humans will challenge everything we thought we knew about developing species. He projected images from Earth above him. We assumed humans were primitive because they fight constantly. We were wrong. Their conflicts don't weaken them. They drive them forward at an incredible pace. The council leader, a tall being named Max, leaned forward. Explain. Tom showed footage of World War I planes, then modern jets. In just 80 years, they went from basic flying machines to supersonic aircraft. Their conflicts forced rapid innovation. He paused before adding, and that's not even their most impressive achievement. The chamber filled with murmurs as Tom displayed more images, early computers beside modern smartphones, horse-drawn carriages next to electric cars, ancient sailing ships beside nuclear submarines. But here's what truly makes them dangerous, Tom continued. Humans don't just learn from winning. They learn even more from losing. He played a video of a failed rocket launch, followed by a successful one. When they fail, they don't give up. They study their failures, adapt, and try again. And again. And again. One council member stood up. So what? They're still centuries behind us technologically. Tom's expression grew serious. Are we sure about that? Look at this. He showed 2 timelines side by side. It took our civilizations an average of 300 years to advance from combustion engines to spaceflight. Humans did it in 66 years. From their first computer to artificial intelligence in less than a century. Their rate of advancement is unprecedented. The chamber erupted in worried discussions. Max called for silence. There's more, Tom said quietly. We discovered something truly frightening. When faced with an external threat, humans don't fragment like other species. They unite. He played historical footage of former enemies working together during global crisis. Their nations can be bitter rivals one day and strong allies the next if they face a common enemy. Are you suggesting they're a threat to us? Max asked. I'm suggesting that if we threaten them, they'll become one, Tom replied. Right now, they'd fight among themselves. But if we give them an external enemy, he let the thought hang in the air. Surely our superior technology would guarantee victory, another council member argued. Tom shook his head. Every time humans face superior force, they adapt and overcome. They have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. They advance fastest when they're threatened. He displayed one final image. Earth at night, its cities glowing like stars. My recommendation, do not engage in conflict with humans. They're not just another primitive species that fights itself. They're a species that has mastered the art of turning conflict into progress. As Tom's hologram faded, the council chamber remained silent. For the first time in galactic history, they faced a species that didn't follow the normal rules of civilization, a species that grew stronger through conflict, instead of weaker. The warning had been delivered. Whether they would heed it was another matter entirely. The council's military chamber was filled with laughter. General Rod, leader of the galaxy's most powerful battle fleet, wiped tears from his eyes as he finished reading Tom's report. This has to be a joke, he said, looking at the other military leaders gathered around the holographic table. He wants us to fear a species that hasn't even reached Mars properly. Commander Pat, his second-in-command, pulled up images of Earth's military forces. Their most powerful weapons wouldn't even scratch our smallest ships. Their bullets would bounce off our basic shields. Tom's gone soft, another officer sneered. Spending too much time among primitives has clouded his judgment. A holographic table lit up with Earth's defensive capabilities. Satellites, missile systems, and naval fleets appeared as tiny dots compared to the scale of one standard galactic warship. Look at this, General Rod pointed. They still use chemical propulsion. Their fastest ships would take years to reach their nearest neighboring planet. Their most powerful bombs could barely damage our hull plating. Commander Pat nodded, but something in Tom's report bothered him. Still, their adaptation rate is unusual. Maybe we should run more tests before. More tests, General Rod interrupted. We've conquered species far more advanced than humans. Remember the Battle of 7 Stars? We faced an enemy with technology nearly equal to ours. These humans are centuries behind that level. The room's atmosphere grew more relaxed as the military leaders shared stories of past victories. None of them noticed Commander Pat still studying the human data with a worried expression. I propose a small demonstration, General Rod announced. We'll send one ship, just one, to their moon. Let them detect it. Let them see what real power looks like. The other leaders nodded in agreement, already imagining how quickly humans would surrender when faced with superior technology. Their primitive sensors will barely understand what they're seeing, one officer laughed. They'll probably think it's a natural phenomenon. Commander Pat finally spoke up. General, what if Tom is right? What if showing ourselves pushes them to unite and advance faster? General Rod waved his hand dismissively. Even if they united their entire planet, even if they focused all their resources on space technology, they couldn't match us in 1,000 years. The Council won't approve direct conflict, Pat reminded him. Who said anything about conflict? General Rod smiled. This is just a demonstration. One ship, no weapons fired. Just letting them know we're here, and we're far beyond their level. It might even stop them from developing dangerous technologies. The military leaders nodded in agreement. Only Commander Pat remained uncertain, remembering one particular line from Tom's report. Humans don't respond to intimidation as expected. They don't cower. They prepare. But his concerns were drowned out by the confident voices of his colleagues as they planned their simple demonstration. None of them realized they were about to make the biggest mistake in galactic military history. As the meeting ended, General Rod signed the order. Operation Wake-Up Call. Target: Earth's moon. Mission: show presence. Expected resistance: none. How wrong they were about that last part. The massive alien warship emerged from hyperspace behind Earth's moon, exactly as planned. General Rod watched from the command center as his ship settled into lunar orbit, completely invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems. Or so he thought. On Earth, in a secret underground facility, dozens of scientists and military personnel stared at their screens in amazement. Their new quantum detection system, something they'd developed but kept secret, was picking up readings they'd never seen before. "Sir," a young radar operator called out, "whatever this is, it's not natural. The energy signature is too organized." The base commander immediately initiated Protocol Omega, their long-prepared plan for first contact. But this wasn't going to be the friendly first contact they'd hoped for. Above them, General Rod prepared his demonstration. The ship's massive form slowly moved out of the moon's shadow, deliberately making itself visible to Earth's telescopes and radar. "Let them see true power," he said smugly. "Begin the light show." The warship's engines lit up, creating brilliant patterns in space. It was meant to demonstrate their technological superiority, a peaceful but intimidating display of advanced technology. But humans didn't react as expected. Instead of panic or awe, Earth's military installations worldwide went into high alert. Hidden missile silos opened. Secret space weapons, never revealed to the public, powered up. Underground bases activated defense systems that even most humans didn't know existed. "General," Commander Pat called out, checking his sensors, "I'm detecting energy signatures from Earth. Many of them. They're powering up weapons." General Rod laughed. "What weapons? Their primitive missiles can't even reach us here." Suddenly, multiple alarms blared across the ship. Their sensors detected something launching from Earth, something moving far faster than any chemical rocket should be able to move. "Impossible," General Rod whispered, watching the trajectory plot. "They shouldn't have this technology." The projectile wasn't just a missile. It was a magnetically accelerated kinetic weapon, something humans had developed in secret. While they showed the world their primitive rockets, they had been quietly developing much more advanced technology. "Evasive action," General Rod shouted, but it was too late. The kinetic round slammed into their ship shield. While it didn't penetrate, the impact was far stronger than anything they'd expected. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as shield energy dropped by 30%. More launches detected. Commander Pat yelled, "They're firing from multiple locations." General Rod stared in disbelief as his mighty warship was forced to retreat behind the moon. The humans hadn't just detected them. They'd been prepared. They'd had weapons ready. They'd kept their true capabilities hidden. As they prepared for emergency hyperspace jump, Commander Pat received one final sensor reading. Earth's military forces were mobilizing globally, not in panic, but with practiced precision. They'd trained for this. "Send emergency message to the Council," General Rod ordered, his voice shaking. Message reads, "Tom was right. Humans are not what we thought. Recommend immediate cessation of all demonstration activities." They were ready for us. They were waiting for us. The warship disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind a very different Earth than the one they'd expected to find, and a species that had just proved it was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The emergency council meeting was in chaos. Representatives from 50 alien civilizations argued loudly as they watched the replay of the failed demonstration at Earth. They hid their true capabilities. One member shouted, "This is a direct violation of predictive models." Tom stood quietly in the corner, watching as General Rod tried to explain what had happened. The general's usual confidence was gone, replaced by nervous gestures and a shaking voice. "The humans," Rod explained, "they didn't develop technology the way we expected. They showed us their rockets and satellites, but kept their advanced weapons hidden. It's like they knew we were watching." The council leader Max called for silence. Tom, your report suggested humans were adaptable. But this, he gestured at the footage of the kinetic weapons hitting the warship's shields. This is beyond adaptation. Explain. Tom stepped forward. Honorable Counsel, humans have something we've never seen before. They create entertainment, stories, movies, games about alien invasions. For centuries, they'd been imagining how to fight us, even before they knew we existed. He played clips from various human movies showing alien invasions. They call it science fiction. But look closer. Many of their imagined defenses are similar to what they actually built. The council chamber grew quiet as understanding dawned. You mean, Commander Pat spoke up. They've been preparing for us through their imagination. Exactly, Tom replied. While we watched them shoot chemical rockets into space, they were secretly developing technologies they got from their own fiction. Every invasion story they created became a blueprint for real defenses. More footage played. Underground bunkers, hidden weapons, global defense plans. They didn't just prepare weapons, Tom continued. They prepared their entire civilization for contact with alien life, both peaceful and hostile. But how did they advance so quickly? Someone asked. Because they never stopped thinking about it, Tom explained. In their fiction, humans usually win against alien invaders. This gave them confidence, drive, and most importantly, ideas. Ideas they turned into real technology. General Rod stood up. The kinetic weapons they used, they were waiting for us to appear exactly where we did. Behind their moon, watching them. They planned for our arrival decades ago. Tom nodded. Humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. They wanted peaceful first contact, but they prepared for war. And they did it all while making us think they were just learning to reach their moon. The council leader's expression was grave. So what you're saying is? What I'm saying, Tom finished, is that humans are the first species we've ever met who started preparing for interstellar war before they even had interstellar travel. They turned their fears into stories, their stories into plans, and their plans into hidden technology. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A species that could imagine its future and secretly prepare for it was unlike anything they'd encountered before. And now, Tom added quietly, we've just confirmed their suspicions that they're not alone in the universe. We've proven their preparation wasn't paranoid. It was necessary. The question is, what will they do next? No one in the council chamber had an answer. For the first time in galactic history, they faced a species that had prepared for their arrival long before first contact. A species that had turned imagination into reality and paranoia into readiness. The council's archive room hadn't been used in centuries. Now it was filled with researchers frantically studying historical records of every species that had ever engaged in conflict with a rapidly advancing civilization. Found another one, called out an archivist named Bob. The Stellar Empire tried to conquer a developing world 3,000 years ago. The planet's inhabitants were using basic spaceflight when the invasion began. What happened? Asked Tom, who had been asked to lead the research team. The Empire lost half its fleet in the first attack, Bob read. But the defending species burned out trying to match the Empire's technology too quickly. They collapsed within a year. Commander Pat, now reassigned to the research team, shook his head. That's the 12th case we found. Every species that tried to advance too quickly against superior technology either collapsed or destroyed themselves. But humans are different, Tom insisted. Look at their history. He pulled up a historical timeline on the main screen. World War I. They went from basic planes to jet engines in 6 years. The space race. From no satellites to moon landings in a decade. The digital age. From room-sized computers to quantum processing in less than a century. And they did it all while maintaining stability, added Bob, his eyes widening with understanding. No burnout. No collapse. The room fell silent as they studied more records. Every previous case of rapid technological advancement had ended in disaster, except humans. Here's something interesting, Commander Pat said suddenly. A psychological analysis of species that faced superior forces. Most of them experienced fear, panic, or despair. But these readings from Earth after our demonstration. He displayed the data. Instead of fear, the human population showed increased determination. Instead of panic, they showed focused preparation. Instead of despair, they showed excitement. They're treating this like a challenge, Tom explained. Remember their entertainment. They've been mentally preparing for this moment for generations. In their stories, humanity always finds a way to win, no matter the odds. Bob pulled up more recent data from Earth. Look at this. After our demonstration, global conflicts decreased by 60%. Former enemy nations are sharing technology. Military budgets are being redirected to space defense and advanced research. They're uniting, Commander Pat whispered, just like you warned us they would. Tom nodded gravely. But that's not the worst part. We've just validated every conspiracy theory, every science fiction story, every paranoid preparation they've ever made. They now know for certain that advanced alien civilizations exist, and that we've been watching them. The implications hit everyone in the room at once. Their simple demonstration had confirmed humanity's suspicions and justified their secret preparations. Instead of intimidating them, they had vindicated them. New data incoming, Bob announced. Earth's technological advancement rate has increased by 300% since the demonstration. They're not even hiding it anymore. It's like they're sending us a message. Tom looked at the rapidly updating numbers, remembering what he'd learned about human nature. They are sending us a message. They're saying, we were right to prepare, and we're not stopping now. The research team worked through the night, but every historical comparison led to the same conclusion. Humanity's response to advanced alien life was unprecedented. They weren't following any known pattern of species development. They were writing their own. The Grand Council chamber was more crowded than ever before. Representatives from every spacefaring civilization had gathered for what would become the most important policy decision in galactic history. Order. Order in the chamber. Council leader Max's voice boomed across the room. We're here to establish the human protocol. New laws regarding interaction with Earth. Tom stood at the center, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's rapid advancement since the failed demonstration. In just 6 months, humans have achieved what should have taken decades. Their rate of progress is beyond anything we've seen. But surely we can still defeat them if necessary, asked one military representative. Commander Pat stepped forward. Current projections show that within 5 years, their technology will match ours. Within 10 years, he paused, letting the implications sink in. They're that dangerous, someone gasped. No, Tom corrected. They're that determined. Every time we think we understand their limits, they prove us wrong. They've turned their entire planet into a research and development facility. Old enemies now work together. Their progress isn't just fast, it's accelerating. The chamber erupted in worried discussions until Max called for silence again. We're here to vote on the human protocol. Tom, present the key points. Tom nodded and began reading from his datapad. Point 1. Earth and its solar system are now classified as a restricted zone. No military vessels may enter without unanimous council approval. Point 2. Any aggressive action against Earth will be considered an act of war against the entire Galactic Council. Point 3. All species must share information about any past contact with humans, including secret observations or interactions. Point 4. Earth is to be classified as a do not provoke civilization, the first of its kind in our records. General Rod, who had been quietly sitting in the back, stood up. I support these measures. What we witnessed at Earth's moon wasn't just advanced technology. It was a species that had spent generations preparing for us, while making us think they were primitive. Commander Pat added, their ability to unite against external threats combined with their rate of technological advancement, makes them unique. They don't follow the normal rules of civilization development. Furthermore, Tom continued, we believe they're aware we're having this meeting. Their telescopes are now advanced enough to detect our ships gathering here. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The humans had advanced so quickly that they were now watching their watchers. Max called for the vote. The result was unanimous. The human protocol would become galactic law. As the meeting ended, Tom added one final note. Remember, humans have a saying, peace through strength. They don't want war, but they'll never stop preparing for it. The best way to handle humans is to treat them with respect and stay out of their way. The new protocol was broadcast across the galaxy. For the first time in galactic history, an entire civilization was classified as do not provoke. Not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because of their unique ability to become stronger when challenged. As the council members left the chamber, many glanced at the latest images from Earth. New satellites, defense platforms, and ships were being built at an incredible pace. But most concerning of all was the message humans had begun broadcasting into space in all known galactic languages. We come in peace, but we're ready for war. 5 years after the human protocol was established, the Galactic Council prepared for its most important meeting yet, official first contact with Earth. This time, there were no warships, no demonstrations of power. Instead, a single diplomatic vessel approached Earth's orbit, broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. Tom, now serving as chief ambassador, stood on the ship's bridge watching Earth grow larger in the view screen. They're responding, the communications officer announced. They're inviting us to land at their new global contact center. As the ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, everyone aboard gasped. Where there had once been separate nations, a unified planetary defense system now existed. Sophisticated satellites tracked their every move, while advanced ships, nearly matching their own technology, escorted them to the landing site. Welcome to Earth, the human greeting party said as Tom and his delegation stepped onto Earth's soil. The human spokesperson, a calm-looking person in a simple uniform, added with a slight smile, "We've been expecting you for a very long time." Inside the contact center, both sides sat down for the first official diplomatic meeting between Earth and the Galactic Council. The humans weren't surprised or overwhelmed. They were prepared, professional, and confident. "We know you've been watching us," the human spokesperson said matter-of-factly. "We've known for decades. Every time you thought we couldn't detect you, we were learning from you." Tom nodded respectfully. "We underestimated you." "Everyone does," another human diplomat replied. "That's why we survived. We've spent centuries preparing for this moment, hoping for peace, but ready for anything else." The meetings continued for days. Trade agreements were discussed. Technology exchanges were arranged. But most importantly, a new type of relationship was formed, one based on mutual respect rather than fear or dominance. "There's just one thing we don't understand," Tom said during the final meeting. "Why didn't you announce yourselves sooner? You clearly had the capability." The human spokesperson smiled. "We learned from watching you. We saw how your civilization treated species that revealed themselves too early. So we waited, we watched, and we prepared. When you finally showed yourselves, we were ready." As the diplomatic team prepared to leave Earth, they received one final surprise. The humans unveiled their latest achievement, a ship that could travel faster than anything in the galactic fleet. "Consider it a gesture of goodwill," the human spokesperson said, "and a reminder that humanity will always keep advancing, keep improving, keep preparing. Not because we want war, but because we want peace. Real peace, between equals." Back in the Galactic Council chamber, Tom delivered his final report on humanity. "The species we once thought primitive has become one of our most valuable allies. They remind us that true strength isn't just about technology or military power. It's about determination, unity, and the wisdom to prepare for all possibilities. He paused before delivering his conclusion. We never fight humans, not because we can't, but because we don't need to. They've proven themselves to be exactly what the galaxy needed. A species that reminds us that peace is strongest when both sides are strong enough to defend it. The human protocol remained in place, but for a different reason now. It stayed as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful civilizations are the ones smart enough to hide their power until they're ready to use it wisely. And humans, they just kept doing what they'd always done, preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and surprising everyone who underestimated them.